Welcome to a beautiful late spring morning in the Northamptonshire, Buckinghamshire border country. We are at Silverstone for the second round of the Blancpain GT Endurance Series, and certainly judging by the action that took place down at Monza last month, with Audi coming out on top from a pair of Mercedes and a Lamborghini ahead of a Jaguar. We've got a fantastic mix of cars. I'm Bruce Jones, and I'm joined in the main commentary box here by John Watson. John, how do you see it this weekend?
I think Silverstone has been blessed with the most beautiful weather. It's going to be over the country apparently all weekend. So today it's going to get warmer and warmer, and the same on Sunday. And all I can say is, well, there's the weather forecast, 20.2 Celsius, already just after 11 o'clock in the morning, 32 on the track, humidity low, air pressure will make that of what you want. You couldn't want for a better day to come to a weekend's motor racing as today and tomorrow than we've got right now. And I mean, what a field. I mean, wherever you look, the names that are in these cars, for 50 entries, you got the class of GT3 racing, both in Blancpain Endurance and Sprint, but in GT racing around the world, as we look at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit layout. Lap length, 3.660 miles, 5.9 kilometers, 18 turns. Some of them are the iconic corners that were here at Silverstone from its instigation back in 1948. I remember it well.
But I mean, the whole point about Silverstone, it's always been a circuit that's about being able to carry your speed, having momentum and getting a wonderful float. Slightly compromised in recent years, the way that track has changed. But you mentioned sectors like Maggots, Beckett's, the wonderful ride down the Hanger Straight to Stowe. They're still there.
In essence, it's a perimeter racetrack. That's what it was laid out fundamentally. I suppose by the time it got into the early 50s, initially the layout was quite different to the one that became the traditional Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. But you've got corners starting at what the start-finish straight, but now called national pit straights, cops. And then you've got this, just amazing sequence of Maggots, Beckett's, and then Chapel Curve back onto the Hanger Straight. An awesome place to go and watch any race car. Defies, how can they do it? We sit on the outside, sit in the commentary booth, and I'm in awe. And I've driven the racetrack, I know what it's like. But when you sit and watch, either in a grandstand or on television, the perspective that you get it's just stunning. I mean, there are so few racetracks around the world that have got truly high-speed, challenging corners, and Silverstone's got them in an abundance.
One of the cars we're looking at there, the number 7 Bentley, quite a story this weekend. It's one of the 2 Bentley Team M Sport entries. Guy Smith on board for the final time. 17 years a Bentley driver. Victory at Le Mans all the way back in 2003. But hanging up his helmet from Frontline Racing after this weekend.
Yes, I mean, it's going to be a big change, clearly, for Guy Smith, because he's go from being a competitive driver, part of the Bentley team, of course, winning at Le Mans a number of years ago. He will continue a role within Bentley, but not as a driver. So it's an emotional weekend. I wish him well, and I wish the Bentley team, the M Sport team, I mean, wouldn't it be a magic event? I mean, you hate to say who you would like to see winning on a weekend when you've got such a field of such outstanding cars and drivers, but wouldn't it be a great finale for Guy Smith to say thank you and goodbye?
It certainly will. It seems a very, very long time ago when I used to be in Autosport magazine and we get his press releases, Swift Caravans, when he was competing in British Formula Renault. I've just had a quick look. That was back in 1985 when he was champion, so he might have even been racing the year before. How the time flies. But I mean, he will be a fantastic ambassador for the Bentley brand. So let's wish him well this weekend. Guy racing with Jules Gounon and Stephen Kane, and after this weekend, South African racer Jordan Pepper will come in and take the 3rd seat in the number 7 entry. Fans out around the circuit, the wise ones with a coffee or a beer in their hand, but the really wise ones are the ones who are walking anti-clockwise around the circuit. They get to see almost the entirety of the perimeter, and if they've never done it before, now is as good a day weather-wise as ever to do it.
Yes, and I mean, people would say, well, I'm going to go to Silverstone this weekend. Where should I sit and watch? I think you've summed it up very well, Bruce. You don't sit, you make your way around the racetrack, the entire 3.6 miles of the circuit. And I mean, the iconic corners, we only got as far as Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Then you got Stowe, a revised corner over the years, not quite the high-speed corner that it used to be, and then down into Vale. where you have to get hard on the brakes, swing left, then right through club corner. As you look inside, Peter Shorthorse.
Well, the reason I was pointing to that, Watty, was the fact that we were just having a quick discussion beforehand which cars to look out for. I think that's 66 Attempto Racing Audi, Peter Shorthorse, his brother Stein, and Kelvin van der Linde. They had a last-minute decision ahead of the season to change to Audis. I think they are really going to be at the very, very sharp end indeed. They showed really well in the opening sprint round at Zolder, and I think their form is coming towards them. So just another one to put into the pot.
I mean, Bruce, look, I mean, I had to get an A3 version of the entry list so as I could read every name, because wherever you're looking, virtually, certainly in all the pro cars, Outstanding is the first of the cars now, leaves the pit lane and makes their way up towards Maggots and Beckett's. And it will be, and actually just the second of the cars, the red Lamborghini Gallardo. If you think back to Monza, Bruce, when we were involved, I beg your pardon, when I was at Monza, you were not at Monza, it was outstanding. Well, the Writer Racing, I mean, this performance, where did that come from?
Well, Patrick Niederhauser is a driver who's already, at this early point in the season, got quite a few wins under his belt. He's been winning in GT4. He came over and was a winner in Blancpain GT Asia. And one of the things that we want to do, we've just been talking about Guy Smith, but let's hear from another Bentley racer, because Dakota has caught up with Stephen Kane.
Stephen, now this is your home race, your team's home race, and your car's home race. It's going to be a fun weekend, right?
Well, I hope so. Like, it's always great to come back to Silverstone. It's you know, it's the home of the BRDC, home where Bentley was all started, and you know, we're here with a new car this year, and it's Guy's last race, so we're going to try and make it a really eventful race and a rememberable one.
And why should the fans be watching this weekend? Why should the fans
The fans should come because, you know, it's GT3, it's the Blancpain Endurance Series, and it's the most competitive GT championship in the world. All the great cars here, including our own very own Bentley and British brand, and you know, it's the home of motorsport in Great Britain. So yeah, the fans should come and give us his support.
Let's give them a show. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think a point worth picking out there, of course, is time stands still for nobody in motor racing, and Bentley running with a new Continental this year, still finding their feet to an extent, but certainly in that opening endurance round at Monza, they seem to be in the wars a little bit. Guy Smith in particular seemed to be able to do nothing right. Not often his fault down at the first chicane, but it was at a point at which he got monstered a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, at Monza, into the first chicane, in fact, into any of the three chicanes, is always very tight with a large field. But the Evo 2 version of the Bentley GT, the Bentley Continental GT3 is an extremely impressive piece of engineering. It is much more pure race car than the Evo 1, the original version of the Continental GT3. As we get a view of Pierre Caffa, and literally people just going out, and there'll be an in and out laps, maybe around 2 or 3 laps, just to get a sense of what is happening at Silverstone. And because of the weather being, I would say, maybe 5 or 10 Fahrenheit, let alone Celsius, above what would be the average at this time of year at Silverstone. So it changes what people will get, the reactions they're going to get from, principally from the tyres, because they will be carrying over tyres from the previous rounds. Nobody will be going out on a brand new set of tyres in these, certainly in this first of these 2 1.5-hour sessions. So it's very much a case of lick your finger and see where the lap time's going to come from.
Yeah, already we're having a few cars trickling into the pits. One of the Nissans just went in. They look fantastic this year in that red and white livery. But Pierre Caffa, that's not a bad livery either for Attempto Racing. Over the years, they've always had that metallic blue livery on all sorts of cars, but this year it's Audis, and fastest of all through the first sector, probably by dint of being the first driver through the first sector, is Pierre Caffa, but you can see a Ferrari tucked in behind, and another Audi as well. But Pierre just actually put his indicator on. He's turned it off again. I think he was just saying, I'm going to the right of the circuit, you can go down the inside. Doesn't want to be compromised. And up towards the end of the lap, just approaching the Luffields. Brooklands had a few cars going off there in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo qualifying session, but certainly these runners keeping it on the black stuff. So still waiting for that first flying lap to be put on the board, and I would suggest Caffa will be the first person to do so. But he's not the fastest. Number 53 is at the top of the chart, so the 53 entry is the Spirit of Race Ferrari that was tucked in behind, the one that he waved through But of course that would be beaten in very quick order, and Julie does with one of the BMWs going to the top, and then suddenly one of the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris with Daniel Kalvitz at the wheel. So not yet under 2 minutes, 2 minutes seconds, 0.893.
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to have is every car coming across start-finish line probably improving on the previous fastest lap. So it's somewhat, in terms of who's quickest at this point, almost irrelevant. But it is the 333 Ferrari, Rinaldi Racing, Alexander Mutschel and Renat Sadikov. Daniel Kilovitz, who is really the driver, who is the star driver in terms of performance. So Kilovitz behind the wheel of the car right now.
The winning car at Monza is the car we're looking at number one from the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT. Dries van Tor, Alex Riberas and Christopher Mies. And at the moment that puts him second fastest, Riberas at the wheel, so he's just 0.2 of a second down, and the times, as John pointed out, changing fast. But certainly when you go to a circuit like Monza, 54 cars, and you come out at the top of the pile, you've got your season off to a very good start indeed. Dries van Tor, though, last weekend had really quite a big moment in the Nürburgring 24 hours, and good to see him back out all over again, and that really was a case of just clattering with the back marker, just a kiss of the tyres, and he did incredibly well to keep it largely off the barriers.
Yes, I mean, Nürburgring 24 hours is a one-off event, and literally you get everything from the best of the GT3 world down to somebody who insists that they should take their Trabant out and do a 24-hour race. And I think Dries van Tor was, actually there were two other cars and one did not see him, and that was a compromise that led to Dries van Tor having a significant off. I've just spoken to some of the people that were actually there. Marcus Winkelhock was saying it was without hesitation, question, shadow or doubt the most difficult 24 hours that he had experienced. Again, it's a race which is not a single tyre supplier, so you had a variety of tyre brands. If you had the correct tyre brand, then you were, particularly in the wet conditions, in good shape. If you didn't, you weren't.
And they had fog and rain. Number 7 Bentley with Guy Smith, presumably the driver at the wheel, but this is certainly not Stephen Kane. We heard him talking before, just coming around to get a flying lap on the board. Let's see what the new Bentley can do, and it's just waiting to see it on the timing screens, not in the top timing screen, so just waiting for that to confirm its position in the ranking. But at the moment it's number 99 top of the charts, which is the Row Racing, John Edwards, Conor De Filippi and Nick Yaloli entry. Top of the charts. Nick, British driver, normally a Porsche racer, but I can tell you already Daniel Kalvitz is fighting back in the 333 Ferrari.
Well, everybody's getting down pretty quickly, down to a 2 minute 00, 2 minute 01. Top 11 cars covered by 1.3 seconds as we stand, and as I say, these times are constantly changing. Lots of green popping up, which indicates a personal best lap time for any driver car combination. A purple indicates the fastest overall in any specific sector, and then purple for the fastest overall lap, which still retains or remains with the 99 BMW. But waiting to see what Kalvitz will do in the 333 Ferrari. That's a Pro-Am entry, so he is the pro in the Pro-Am entry. And we're seeing increasingly the Pro-Am entries finding themselves with the pro drivers, mixing it as one would expect with the pure 3 drivers. It is in the case of an endurance event, pro entries. So yes, personal best for Kalvitz in that second sector, and if he maintains, he gets a clear run through that final sector, could see him being the first driver to get below the 120 seconds for a flying lap.
Yeah, certainly looks like it's going the way of Kalvitz at the moment. But look at the shot, Jack, in the middle of it. There are just so many cars out around the circuit. The Nissan, we saw one of those coming in for a very early little visit to the pits, just outside the top 20 at the moment. Oh dear, one of the drivers already been reported to the stewards. Kalvitz does go top, but he doesn't get under the 2 minute mark, John. Number 114 reported for speeding in the pit lane. But Matt Parry, one of the young British drivers in the field, he's only just come across, really, it's his second year with Nissan since racing in GP3. Could be one of the stories this weekend. He's certainly got a very good crew of drivers around him in the number 23. The Nissan, the GTR Nismo, he's sharing with Lucas Ordonez and Alex Buncombe. Great experienced hands to bring the young Welshman forward.
Matt Perry just running a little bit wide on the exit, but when Matt Perry joined the Nissan team last year, it was almost like a shock to the system, because he brought basically a very powerful single-seater background into GT3 racing and was instantly really solid, really quick, and that's carried forward into 2018. So this is the Evo version of the Nissan GT-R, following the trend for what I describe as mid-engine, front-engine GT cars, in which the engineering has now got the engine gearbox much lower in the chassis, much further back in the chassis. Again, the engineering is more akin to GT500, which is the principal GT series in Japan. So Matt Parry benefiting from that. So
he's improving his pace around the circuit, down in 29th position at the moment, but I must say, watching the race at Monza, the straight line speed, the grunt out of some of the tighter corners looked really impressive in these Nismo GTRs. I must say, I also really like their race livery as well this year. I think they look really...
It's traditional. I mean, it's not complicated.
Nope.
I do find that it's a bit like race drivers' helmets. They've become, in my view, overly complicated in the styling and the paint. And sometimes some race cars, Matt Perry using a lot of the exit of a corner, needs to be careful, because there is now a much stricter regime being imposed on drivers in regard to track limits. Back end stepped out a little bit, maybe unexpectedly for Matt Perry.
Well,
but everybody has to be aware that there are track limits. Get all four wheels over the track limits. That will be noted, and you will be advised. You do it too often, you get a penalty.
Well, the point I wanted to make about cars stepping out a little bit, clearly the number one Audi, we saw it early in the session, Christopher Mies, Dries Van Tor and Alex Riberas, the Spaniard at the wheel, but that's now down to 8th position because it's had a spin at turn 9. But now we haven't really talked much about Lamborghini, just seeing one in the middle of the pack there, and Mirko Bortolossi in the 63 car up to 4th place. No drivers yet under the 2-minute mark, but Straka, number 44 crew, we've been looking out for that one, because Oliver Rowland, British single-seater racer, who's also just had his first Formula 1 test, joining Adrian Tombe and Thomas Jaeger this weekend for Straka Racing. This is Thomas at the wheel, though.
Yeah, I'm going to watch Oliver Rowland closely, because coming out of single-seater racing, Formula 2, and also having his Formula 1 run in a Williams Formula 1 car, then jumping into a GT3 car, it's quite a different approach. Cars very much heavier, much lower levels of overall grip. But what a great car the Mercedes AMG GT3 is, and I mean, having the kind of support in the team with Thomas Jaeger and Adrian Tombe, both familiar with GT3 racing. So it's another little, if he needs to go down a different direction, I'm sure there'll be many welcoming teams for him.
Well, it must be said also that he's he was due to have made his World Endurance Championship debut at Spa-Francorchamps, but effectively the Manor Ginetta team did not turn up. They're all set for Le Mans, so he's got many irons in his fire. He's certainly one of the quickest young British drivers to have proved what he's done over the past few seasons in Formula 2, where he's been very quick indeed. Didn't land the title, but he's been right in that mix. I think there's a lot more to come.
Well, I have no doubt about it. The talent that Oliver Rowland has got. It's not Oliver Rowland. Spin. 43 sister car. So that's the Straka Racing Fuminelli, Maxi Book, and Max Cook. Which of the three?
To work out who's on board
that's the 43.
That's the 43
yeah.
on the screen. So just having a look, not in our top 20. I'm scrolling down the next screen as it rather annoyingly moves as I look at it. But I would suggest that someone building up to speed.
I think that was possibly an outlap.
Maxi Book just spotted it. Actually,
yeah.
That's unusual, because Maxi, as we know, Maxi and a Mercedes is a very strong combination. So maybe he was just surprised by track conditions early on, or maybe he was avoiding somebody else having a bit of a moment.
But it's number 26, Marcus Winkelhock, as we look at Michael Achalian, I can't pronounce it, but Marcus Winkelhock in the 26 Audi, fastest overall first and second sector. So expect to see another Pro-Am car, one of the Santa Block racing cars, up into, but it is Marcus Winkelhock 159.668. So a great outlap at the Santa Block Racing. Marcus Winkelhock with Niles, Steve Hart, and Mark Rustin. So interesting to see where that car will end up. As the 72 Ferrari. Again, looking down timing and scoring to see where it is.
Well, it was a car that started on pole position at Monza. It's down in 33rd position. We have 52 cars out to play. So as you can see, stuck in the middle of traffic, Mikael Aleshin has improved his first sector time, but a car that clearly had a very good balance in the opening round. Didn't come away with the top result though, right down at the bottom of the finishers. Had its a few dramas too many during the race, but for the SMP racing crew, it can be a very busy season because, of course, the Russian racing team has irons in many fires, and Aleshin will be competing with a fairly famous teammate this year in the World Endurance Championship, because he'll be joined not just by Vitaly Petrov, but Jenson Button will be joining him in the World Endurance Championship in the P1 class.
Certainly spreading himself around as the former world champion, but number 8 Bentley, we're looking at Phil Keane in the Barwell Racing Lamborghini again making its way back into the pits, but it is the number 8 Bentley, currently fastest overall, 13th currently on a time of 2 minutes 01, but fastest overall in Sector 1, Vincent Abril, number 8 Bentley, with Maxime Soulet and Andy Soucek. Now, Andy Soucek has proven to be an exceptionally versatile racing driver, because last weekend he was driving in the Monaco Historic event in a BRM type, I think it was a 153, I believe. Outstanding, really outstanding. Vincent Abril, personal best, 2nd sector. Shortly he'll be coming across the line to compete. That car's in effect proper first flying lap, although they're currently 1 place down. It's still Winkelhock quickest from Kelowitz, and the Ferrari in 2nd place.
Well, it's a big margin at the moment, almost 7/10 of a second, which is night and day in this series. I just want to pick out though, Phil Keane sort of no longer, well, he's with Barwell in the British GT Series, but actually he's racing for the Grasser Racing team in the Endurance Championship, and that is why it's so important. Jens Klingman is up into 5th place now in the BMW, which just Vincent Abril tucked in behind, so within a second of the fastest driver, Vincent Abril up to 6th place. So that's good to see the Bentleys working their way forward, but at the moment Marcus Winkelhock nearly 7/10 clear at the top of the field, ahead of Daniel Karlitz in the 333 Ferrari. Haven't seen much of the Aston Martins yet. Here's one in 49 on the windscreen. That's not a good number if you've got 52 runners. That's
well, there's the car, Alex Brundle.
Smoky.
Yeah, Alex Brundle, Maxime Martin. Going to be a very strong package, and of course this car will be, I would say, one of the favourites when we look forward to the event at the end of July. Maxime Martin behind the wheel he was going rather slowly, and he locked up coming into Vale. Was that a puncture on that left front?
It could be, because we heard there was a bit of smoke being spotted from it.
I think that might be a left front that has gone down, because certainly he's backed out of it very quickly indeed, and he wasn't travelling at speed when he was braking into Vale, and that would most likely be the cause. So that's a car with one limping back to the pits.
Well, it's a car that looks fantastic in its grey and edged livery, but I'd rather see it not at a standstill. I'd like to see it at speed, being driven as it's supposed to be. So for Alex Brundle, frustration, and Marvin Kirchhoff likewise, but most frustration for Maxime Martin. So really smoking away as it limps. Must have only just passed pit entry when he had whatever happened to the car. Everybody else swerving around. The 2 Garage 59 McLarens going from side to side there. They've got one, of course, down in the junior class, if you will. The AM entry of Chris Harris, Alexander West and Chris Goodwin. And here is Chris, who's had some fantastic drives at Silverstone over the years. In fact, most notably one here, I think it was 1997 in the McLaren F1 GTR Longtail, and it was a wet race, and he absolutely started that. Oh, well, that's a bit of a know-me fact, isn't it? Goes back a little bit.
I think I would go with that one. But the 2 McLarens running around pretty much in tandem. Still, we've got Marcus Winkelhock as pretty much unchallenged, though having said that, suddenly the ACA ASP number 90 Mercedes, Nico Bastien, who again has been a star so far this season, is within just under 0.3 of a second. So that's an improvement for the number 90 ACA ASP Mercedes. The first time we've seen a Mercedes, we're into the session of can't even do my mathematics, about 27, 28 minutes. So that's the first of the Mercedes AMG GT3s that has really featured so far, and only the second car to get under that 122nd lap barrier.
Yeah, we sort of felt they were coming, and they most certainly are. So at the moment it's Audi with Winkelhock on board, then Bastien in the Mercedes, and then the Ferrari And then in fourth place, another Audi with Alex Riberas. Don't forget, Riberas had a spin early on, so plenty of variety at the very front end. Car number 19 is fifth at the moment, which is the best of the Lamborghinis, and that's being driven at the moment by... I think they might have changed their driver lineup, so I'm having to look at the big sheet you've given me. Oh, Giovanni Venturini, he's the third driver in that car.
One of the changes, Bruce, you weren't in Monza, but in qualifying, we've now got qualifying lap times are all combined, so all 3 sessions, each driver drives a session.
And we get the average, don't we?
And it really, been watching what was going on at Monza, what might have been predictable has suddenly become unpredictable, and it was fantastic, I think. As we look at the 63 Lamborghini, that had been up in the top 3 or 4. Mirko Bortolotti behind the wheel still, so it's down in 11th place, but it's only completed up until now 3 flying laps, so no doubt had been in the pits for a few minutes, well actually for 7 minutes and 40 seconds. So it's back out on track again, a car that we know, race-winning car from last year. They've had a readjustment in the balance of performance, taken away a little bit, principally they've added weight to the car. So it's taken away some of the ultimate performance that they've been enjoying previously. So I wonder what's the story. Mirko Bortolotti, fastest overall, Sector 1, 36.1 seconds. Everything looks like it might be back on track.
Certainly does. I spoke to Mirko after the Monza round. I was in an event in the Most Autodrome in the Czech Republic, and he wasn't a happy creature there either, because he felt that it was all going a little bit away from Lamborghini. Admittedly, a circuit like Most is not a sort of track that naturally favours the handling behaviour of a Lamborghini, but this one certainly does. The wide open spaces of Silverstone, and Mirko working his way around a lap. He's down in 11th. He's setting the fastest time of anyone in Sector 1. Christopher Mies in the number 1. No, not Christopher Mies. Alex Ribeiro still in the number 1. Audi is in 4th place. We're looking at him now. And we just fleetingly saw the 114, which is one of the 2 Lexuses from Emil Frey Racing. Marcus Paltzler at the wheel, but not really featuring at the sharp end. And they've been pinged for speeding in the pit lane. So this is a free practice session, and something they need to just get behind them.
So just there is the timing and scoring. You see Mirko Bortolotti just ahead of the 63. So currently fast, a personal best in Sector 1, nothing remarkable in Sector 2. So they were featuring Alex Riberas as he comes out of Luffield.
I'm just trying to see the number on the windscreen, John. We're telling you he's 4th, in fact now fallen to 5th, but I thought the number on the windscreen said 18. Don't forget he got penalised for speeding in the pit lane. I'm just wondering if that punishment involved his time falling away. Now it says 30th position on the windscreen.
Well, timing and scoring has got that number 1 Audi up, second quickest overall, within 55 hundredths of a second of the time set a little earlier in the session by Marcus Winkelhock. 63, the Lamborghini we're watching didn't make any improvement in Sectors 2 and Sectors 3, so Mirko Bortolotti has found himself dropping again a couple of positions as one of the BMWs, road racing BMWs, and now Maximilian Buchs slotted into 5th place in the number 4 Mercedes. So it's all fundamentally teams going through, partly driver cycles, change drivers, get some seat time, or focus on your principal driver. Probably in the case of Mirko Bortolotti in the 63 Lamborghini, to get that baseline sorted out from where then you can start to work forward. But it's the 30, just looking down, 31 down in 11th place. 31 is the team Parker Racing, Derek Pierce, Rob Smith, and Seb Morris. Fastest sector. Seb Morris has done that fastest first sector on his fastest lap, 11th place.
But a driver who, as we've seen from the outside, Mirko Bortolotti is really, really pushing. He set his fastest first sector on this lap, but he's fallen to 15th place overall. At the end of the last lap, he was looking incredibly feisty as well. I think there might have been traffic or a little bit of a slip-up, but now he's got relatively clear track ahead of him. The rearview mirror is actually obstructing the view of the car ahead, but onto the hangar straight, that's far enough ahead not to trouble him. We'll look to see what his second sector time is. He's now tumbled down to 16th place. The times keep. He's now 17th, but he's going faster than he has before. But he's overall 1.1 seconds down on the ultimate pace. Now it's Nico Bastian at the top, 1 minute 59.5 seconds. You can see the clock ticking away on the graphic. We're nearly at the 1 minute 50 second mark, which means coming out of Woodcote, just about flashing past where John and I are sitting on the outside of the circuit in our commentary box, down to 17th place. How high will this lap move Bortolotti up the charts? Up to 5th place, so he's just under half a second down. That was his best lap, but it just shows how competitive it is, John.
Yes, I mean, you're talking 1st to 5th, The gap is presently 0.4 of a second. Now, we've often seen 0.4 of a second covering maybe 10 or 12 cars. As you get a look of the Lamborghini up through the stunning. I mean, anybody who wants to come to Silverstone and have light taken from your eyes wants to get up to that sequence of Maggots, Beckett's, and then Chapel Curve. It is awesome, and you sit there. And I get excited about it, sitting here looking at it on screen.
Yeah, no, it truly is magical, and that shot just showed how brave Bortolotti was, the way he pitched it in. So Nico Bastian leads the way, 1 minute 59.534 seconds in the number 90 ACA Mercedes. Second place is still Marcus Finkel. He's in the pits. Third place is number 53, who sneaked up on us at AF Corsa. That's Andrea Bertolini,
Absolutely.
A star in an Italian car.
Absolutely, Andrea Bertolini, no surprise. We've now got 2 Pro-Am cars in the top 3 quickest times. It's the pro drivers, of course, that are setting those times. So it's a Mercedes, it's an Audi, it's a Ferrari, it's an Audi, it's a Lamborghini, an Audi. And then I've got to look down at my timing and scorings to see as another Lamborghini in 19th place. And then 7th place, number 19. And then a Mercedes Max Book, Ferrari, BMW's 10th and 11th.
Yep, so BMW slightly rejigged its driver lineup this weekend. Very close action there. Porsche just staying in front of one of the BMWs. The BMW wants to come past, no doubt about that. But they're both diving into the pits at the same time. In fact, very nearly going to the pit wall.
Yeah,
the pit entry wall, so that was pushed very, very late.
Yeah, the Porsche was slightly further. I think that might have been the Harbath Racing or the Manthey Racing car, which is de facto a factory car. Dirk Werner, Frederick Makovicki.
That's the factory car, so it was the Herbert Motorsport one in the bright green rather than the colour we call Grello, green and yellow. That's what the team calls it when it races in the German series, in the VLN. Getting endless practice at the Nürburgring.
And Fred Makovicki, first time I've seen Fred Makovicki with his, what I call, aerodynamic haircut.
Oh right, yes, he's been a fan of that for quite a long time now.
You know, a strong line at Dirk Werner, Makovicki, Romain Dumas, who is, I mean, the most versatile of all, I think, GT whatever drivers, Pikes Peak in North America.
The whole works. You look down his list of 24-hour wins, famous ones. The Spa 24 hours, the Nürburgring 24 hours, the Le Mans 24 hours, 12-hour races, Sebring 12, and I'm sure if I check, he might have even won the Bathurst 12 as well. So he just has that ability to be sensible and be quick. It's not always a guaranteed combination, but he's been out there. And of course, many years racing for Porsche, and he was the World Endurance P1 champion of a trio in 2016. So he's been a Porsche sweetheart for a very long time.
Yeah, it's currently 21st quickest on a 2:0.726. The gap between fastest and 21st is now 1.1 seconds. Now, that's, if you're 1.1 seconds behind quickest overall, it's like an eternity. But it gives you an early indication as to where this pack, this field of 50 or so cars, is going to be when we get through the qualifying, which is on Sunday morning. What we're having today are 2 practice sessions, and undoubtedly when we get into the later part of the second session and this afternoon, we will see further improvements. But bearing in mind that qualifying is relatively early on Sunday morning, what they will be learning from this session probably is more aligned to what they will experience in the cooler temperatures of Sunday morning when the cars will go out and track.
Okay, just now seeing how far Dumas will move up. I'm sure he'll improve his lap time. Why did I say that? Because he hasn't. He's a tenth of a second down on his very best. Caught a little bit of traffic towards the end of the lap, but certainly the Manthey Racing team right on top of the game. And was that the Reiter Lamborghini that pulled that? No, just out of the pits, it was a different Lamborghini. Sorry, blaming the right a lot, but that's what you don't want when you come out of Copse. Is someone just coming from pit exit and start. It just draws your eye, John.
Yes, and the pit exit, which is just beyond the exit of Copse Corner, it's a pretty quick exit. So a car accelerating after they've gone across the line as the Porsche pulls out and makes that overtake. A car's travelling maybe 120 miles an hour at the point it actually gets onto the racetrack, and you're maybe doing not much more, maybe 125, 130. So it's a distraction you don't really need. Plus, it might just happen to be, you know, on the bit of racetrack that might be the part that you might want to make your entry into that Maggots Beckett section of the circuit.
Entirely so, and I think it's safe to say a corner like Copse, very hard to see on the way in. You're sort of concentrating, you're sort of focused on what you're doing. Right, black and white flag for track limits number 23. That was the Nissan we saw early in the session with Matt Parry at the wheel. But you spotted one of the moments. This is what drivers have to learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's track limits you make a racetrack. Silverstone is an international Grade 1 World Championship Grand Prix circuit. You are required to have an amount of space on the outside of a racetrack, but there are lines that define this is the racetrack. You put all four wheels over that defining line, you're in trouble. Now, it's widely known that I was at Monte Carlo last weekend for the historic festival, mind you, just doing a parade. There, the track is defined by Armco barrier. Isn't it funny? Isn't it strange that drivers don't try to drive through the barrier, over the barrier, or behind the barrier to go quicker? I wonder why.
Circumstantial, John. I can't see what you're trying to draw to there, but no, entirely so. But we've seen them in all the races here, and every circuit we go to, John, every race meeting, drivers get warned for it. But until they learn that they've just can compromise their race, pick up a drive-through penalty, and 26 is also being warned at the moment, not yet given a black and white warning flag, but they're under investigation. 26 at turn 9 and 58. So 26 and 58, that is what the Sandslot Racing.
Yeah. So on board the Lexus, Albert Costa, Christian Klein, and Marcus Siegfried. So the Lexus,
good lineup.
Yeah, a strong lineup, and it's a team that's improving. Basically, it's almost as each event comes and goes, there's an improvement from the Lexus. In fact, I think this car won in one of its other GT series around the world. Might have been in North America, I think, the weekend before last.
Yep.
So
no, it's spreading its wings. And Emil Fry Racing, such an enthusiastic team, such a brilliant job in this championship. And at the moment, they're rewarded with 12th place, Christian Klein. So that's going well. Just 3/4 of a second down on the ultimate pace.
Yeah, another interesting time from car 49, and that's the Ram Racing. Johan Hanke in the Mercedes GT3 up to 5th quickest, 1:59.946. We've now got 7 cars under that magic 122nd lap at Silverstone. Fastest still overall is car 90, that's the AKA ASP. Jules Simkowiak, Jack Manchester, Nico Bastian. Nico Bastian we think was the driver. It's now Jack Manchester behind the wheel. So Nico Bastian, that lap time still stands just over 1/10 of a second ahead of Marcus Winkelhock, who's in 2nd place, and 53 AF Corsa, Andrea Bertolini in the Ferrari 488.
Well, Johan Hanke has been performing a great job in Aston Martins in recent years, but now have to get used to him in a Mercedes, and here he is just really throwing it around with great balance. 5th fastest at the moment, 4/10 of a second down, as John said, waiting to see what he can do, but he's got the clear track ahead of him. That looks very nice indeed. We have more than half an hour behind us and 58 minutes going. This is a free practice session, more again the pre-qualifying session at the end of the day, but perfect track conditions here on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and certainly if you're driving the number 90 crew, that is the right one. And just heard news from the pits, car 62 is having a water leak fitted, and that was the Alex Brundle, Maxime Martin, Marvin Kirchhoff, Aston Martin we saw smoking its way in.
Yes, you know, we maybe anticipated there was a left front going down, but certainly a water leak is something. These cars run pretty hot, there's no margin for error. As we watch up through that wonderful sequence of corners, the 49 Mercedes making its way through the Ram Racing car. That's the car Johan Hanke is behind the wheel. Again, a personal best in that first sector for the 49 Mercedes. Currently in 5th place, further down the field in 10th place, 76. The Jake Dennis and Team Aston Martin. So that's one of the 2 Aston Martins that we think serious front runners given a fair day.
Absolutely so, and certainly judging by the form in a long distance race in the Nürburgring 24 hours, in the wet, in the fog, in the rain, it looked pretty handy there, the Aston Martin. That was the works crew, but Nicky Team very much part of that thrust. So this year's new Vantage just making life very interesting indeed, and continues to mix the pot. So there goes Johan Hanke.
Like the paint scheme.
It's good,
wow,
isn't it?
wow, he certainly runs wide coming out of Cops. But everybody's running wide coming out of Cops. The track is bone dry, the runoff's bone dry. As long as you keep 1 or maybe 2 is better of all your 4 wheels within the limits. Look at that real traffic jam up and through that complex coming onto the straight. So 3 cars, Nissan, 2 Mercedes. Nissan punches a big hole in the air. It's a large car.
It
That's
does
the sister car, the 22. That's the 23. That's the Evo car. So
That was a very interesting front-end shot because you effectively lost the AMG Mercedes behind it, and they're not small cars. I mean, none of these are small cars. That's the whole point.
Bruce, it's like saying your girlfriend's big. You can't say it. Not today.
You've got your running shoes on, John. Now, just got the fastest first sector of anybody by the driver of the car, number 87, which is down in 16th place, and that's suddenly looking very good indeed for Nicolas Jamin. So that's the 87 on the 4 ACA ASP Mercedes. So speed coming from all over. He's within a second of the ultimate time. The ultimate time still in the hands of the number 90 crew. Jack Manchester driving the car at the moment at the top of the charts, also for the ACA ASP team, but it was Nico Bastian who set that time. But now suddenly we've got car number 76 and Jake Dennis, British racer at the wheel, sharing the Aston Martin with Nicky Team and Vassivier. We talked about that. So second pass, one of the cars in trouble with the water leak, and the other one there in second place.
I think the Aston Martin, it is essentially an older design, but it is a really, really good platform. It's got a large V12 engine, so it sounds magnificent. So the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, that's the title the car's got. Very, very user-friendly, and a car that, in a way, for a driver, doesn't give him a hard time.
Yeah, and when you, particularly if you've got a Pro-Am grouping, not that this is one, but you just want to have a car the drivers, all drivers can be confident in.
Continuity and consistency are what I believe, whether it's an endurance race of 3 hours or 6 hours or 24 hours, if you're fighting your car from the minute the lights go out until the flag falls, you'll have a tough time.
Yes, and we keep talking about it being a wonderful balmy spring day, but the temperatures in any race cockpit do have a habit of creeping up, and that can lead to drivers' attentions not being 100% where they ought to be. Christopher Clean, we're riding on board what am I talking about? Riding aboard the number 14 Lexus, and so that's crept up while we haven't been looking. John, the last lap has suddenly put it up to 7th place overall, just over 3/10 of a second down, a third of a second down on the ultimate pace. So we talked about the continual improvements of the RCF Lexus, and they keep on coming. And again, I just want to reiterate, such a strong driver lineup with Costa, Christian Clean and Marco Seifried, all just good, seasoned professional drivers.
Yes, and just watching Christian Clean coming through that sequence of corners, it's not been called a complex. Silverstone don't like it being called a complex. It's Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, but making his marks, hitting his marks all the way through those 3 parts. Sometimes you get a car where you turn the wheel and it doesn't respond, but I have to say the Lexus looks like it is working pretty well. The balance in the chassis, you can see as he was getting on the throttle, hard on the throttle, as he comes all the way down into Abbey, and a real roller coaster of a ride. There's a bump just at the exit, just before you want to change direction, so you have to be careful not to have that catch you out. So the Lexus certainly looking impressive in its relatively early phase of its development.
Drivers in the top few cars still cycling through, but you sort of find yourself going, 2 cars reported to speed limit infringements in the pit lane. Surely that has got to be one of the easiest rules to adhere to. The Ombra Racing Lamborghini, that's number 12, and number 27, one of the Daiko Lazarus Racing Lamborghinis. Bit of a theme going on there. So, and track limits warning car number 22. That's the other GT Sport Motul team, RGN Nissan. So that's the one shared by Jordan Vitt, Ricardo Sanchez and Struan Moore. So they're getting the wrap on the knuckles.
Adam Christodoulou in the 88 ACA ASP. It is. They've improved. They're up to 7th place. Just a 10th or so under, or a 100th of a second, under 3/10 of a second down. So we're looking down the top 18 cars now covered by less than 1 second.
Yeah,
and looking at quickly, Bruce, the 87 Mercedes. Already again fastest overall sector 1. Now inevitably there's always a reason why a car comes out and immediately goes quick in a sector, quickest overall in the sector, so one would assume it's related to the freshness of the goal. No, he saved it this time, didn't he?
John loves an allusion to football. I'm left wondering what you're talking about.
Well, we've got the wedding to talk about as well.
We've got plenty of time.
That's only, what, 10 minutes away? You're going to get a rendition of Here Comes the Bride from me.
Ladies and gentlemen, find something else to do for the next hour. No, good to have you on board. Now the BMW crews, 2 cars, these M6 here this weekend with Row Racing, and it's Jesse in number 98, the one we're looking at. It's Ricky Collard, Nick Giololi, who's a regular runner in the German Porsche Carrera Cup, and John Edwards, American racer. The other car, the 99, Jesse Krohn, Conor De Filippi and Jens Klingman. They had a slightly different lineup ahead of the weekend. They've mixed and matched them around. And now we're having some change to the top. Suddenly Adam Christodoulou, who just had, I think, a warning for something or other, has just gone 3rd fastest in the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes.
Car 911. Blancpain Racing, track limits at turn 9.
2nd spin for the number 1 Audi, the car that won the opening round of the year. Dries van Toor showing them Christopher Mies and Alex Riveros. Riveros had the 1st spin. Who's in it at the moment? It's Christopher Mies. Christopher, who is just Mr. Audi R8 LMS. And then suddenly, it's a fantastic place if you're the ACA ASP team. 3 of your cars in the top 4 positions. But it's Nico Jamin. John just spotted the fact he'd got the fastest first sector of anyone. He's clear by just over half a second. A moment ago, it was 1/10 of a second, Manchester over Vassivière, but now it's not.
Rubber. Fresh tyres. I don't know if it'll be a new set of tyres, but at time suddenly appears a spike. One car goes, as you see now, fractionally over half a second quicker than the others around him. There's a genuine, clear reason for it. And either he's got a turbo boost, he's whacked it up, shut down the wastegates, or he's put fresh rubber on, and I tend to think it's fresh rubber.
And we can just see exactly that going on to Andrew Watson's Garage 59 McLaren and a host of other cars in the pit lane. 52 cars out to play at the moment. And just going back to the spin for the number 1 Audi, I hope when Christopher Mies went out, that wasn't their new set of tyres, they just had a rotation on. And that turn 2 effectively makes it maggot, so that won't have been a slow one. Final warning for car number 25. It won't be the last one, it's the Santilok 25 car, their pro class car. That's Antoine Jung, Simon Gachet and Christopher Haase. So they are being warned. Turn 9, halfway around the lap. And it's still busy down the pit lane. A little voice in my ear very kindly tells me that car 19, the Grasser, Lamborghini, Giammaria, Compang and Venturini, they went very well in the top 10 early on. Gearbox problem they're fixing.
Unusual, because pretty much the Lamborghini and Audi fundamentally use the same mechanical parts. Those bits are considered to be virtually bulletproof on this occasion. Something's not quite right. So Ewan Mackay in the 97 Oman Racing Aston Martin, another of these Aston Martin V12 Vantages, looks different in this paint scheme. When you look at the battleship grey of the entrance of the other.
Oh, he's gone for a spin. Just had a little look, and I thought, is that tail looking a bit? Oh, yes, it is.
Club corner.
So it looks like he's doing an auto test. He's just reversed it behind the cones, and he's going to spin it back round. So for Ewan Mackay, still a learning process as he gets used to this Aston Martin, but at that point, the extra space around the outside of the circuit at Silverstone afforded him not to go into a gravel trap. But
just watch and see. Does his braking, looks reasonable, doesn't clobber the curb, then makes the transition. And at that point, the back end's already beginning to drift around, at which point it's gone. It didn't take an awful lot. And it sort of appeared a bit, a very simple spin. There was no obvious reason why. Just suddenly the back end drifted away, and that was it.
Yeah, well, he's sharing with Charlie Eastwood, Northern Irish racer. He's a Scot, of course, with a name like Ewan Mackay. It's more than likely will be. And Ahmed Al-Hati, who is not a Scot or a Northern Irish person, of course. Oman Racing Team, there is your clue. But for so many years, that car's had Johnny Adam doing giant killing acts in it. And now what we're getting at this point in the circuit is plenty of runners coming into the pits, perhaps to watch the start of the Royal Wedding, but no, not seriously. They're out on the track trying to set their flying laps just before noon, which is the appointed hour. But how long will the bride make Prince Harry wait at the altar?
Well, never forget that Prince Harry is a avid motorsport fan. He's been to Silverstone a number of occasions to attend the British Grand Prix. I doubt he'll be tuned in to watching FP1 here at Silverstone. He's probably got another thought on his mind as we look at one of these other Aston Martins, the RM Sport. That's the car, the 76, which currently is third quickest now. It's just been the 87 Mercedes.
Oh, and the Mante Racing Porsche just gone for a little bit of a moment. I actually think that Prince Harry will probably just watch us on streaming later. He'll watch it on YouTube or Facebook, other mediums to catch up on all the action. But right at the end of the lap, the Mante Racing Porsche doing what it really didn't want to be doing, but not too much damage done there. But that's Fred Makovic in 30th position. Let's have a look at the replay, John.
Yes,
well, it's already underway.
we caught the end of it. We didn't see what was it that led to the back end. Fred Makovic always happy and smiling. So, you know, of course, with the Porsche, the engine hangs out behind the rear wheel. So once you get that pendulum effect, then it is more difficult to say contain than that of a mid-engine rear-engine car, the Ferrari 488 coming out of Copse. And Alexander Matschul.
He was one of the winners last weekend with Maxi Bouk out at the Blancpain Asia Series, so he worked very hard indeed, and came away Pro-Am runner, and certainly he liked the sunshine here, coupled with slightly less temperature and humidity. It was very sticky indeed, but going very well. But last weekend in a Mercedes, this weekend in a Ferrari for Rinaldi Racing, so it's showing that even drivers in the AM element of a Pro-Am grouping need to be right on their toes, on top of their game if they're going to collect. But when you have a teammate, normally in the form of Maxi Bouk, when you're driving a Mercedes, this weekend Alexander is sharing with Rinat Salikov, Russian racer, and Daniel Kalbitz, who we talked about earlier. So certainly Matschul's finding his form, and for Daniel Kalbitz, he's never lost it.
No. We haven't seen very much of the two M Sport Bentleys, but the number 8 and Andy Suchek has now found that car is within 0.8 of a second.
And the sister car, number 7, the one that's just gone out with Jules Gounon, but he's down in 39th position. So just give him a few moments, and I'm sure we'll see the speed start to come.
So, I mean, we're still seeing improvements coming through the field. The SMP Racing, Michael Meadows, Vitaly Petrov, Denis Bulatov, Mercedes. That car is, yes, just inside the top 20. 44, also one of the cars we want to keep an eye on, the Stracker Racing, Oliver Rowland behind the wheel. I don't know whether the time that's indicated is a time set by Oliver Rowland, but currently 15th quickest. But the Michael Meadows car actually is up to 11th place, the 35 ACA ASP. Interestingly, they were split. Michael Meadows, who normally drives the 88 ACA ASP car with Raffaele Marcello, now Adam Christodoulou and Christian Vautier. So Michael has been, whether you say promoted or demoted to the 35, you know, his experience may be considered more valuable with Vitaly Petrov and Denis Bulatov.
So looking for the movers, what we've had is quite a lot of cars just coming in. I think the drivers are really just winding up to their first flying lap, having had driver changes. Some, of course, we saw the times come tumbling as they had new tyres on board. But it's about, you want to see it, Bentley, just off the left-hand side of the screen. The 88 ACA ASP Mercedes in the hands now of Marciello. John and I always look out, particularly in race form, for Marciello, because he's a driver who just does not hold back. And last year, I think he won the Ironman award. We have the Silver Cup, but the Ironman had to go to Raffaele for his 14 plus hours or whatever it was in the Spa 24 hours. Absolutely phenomenal. He could hardly stand at the end.
It was obscene. It was obscene. What Raffaele Marcello did in Spa was been superhuman, Ironman, whatever you wish to call it. And a driver who extracts absolutely everything out of the equipment that he's given, every inch or every centimetre or even whatever less of the racetrack. And there we see the 63 Lamborghini ahead of the 88 Mercedes. They saw a lot of each other recently around Brands Hatch for the second of the sprint events. So 88 Mercedes currently 4th quickest. The last lap was a 2:02 against the fastest overall lap for that car, 1:59.6. He's going into the pit, so he's completed whatever the task the team set him. No, he's not. He's strange. I thought he was going to go into the pit lane. He came through Luffield looking, running slower than maybe just looking for that little bit of additional space. But of course, then one of the Mercedes just popped in ahead of him, and sort of a pointless exercise almost.
Yes, all the body language was a pit visit. He had the number 31 Bentley tucked in behind him. That was a car that was going very well early on in the hands of Seb Morris, but right now is tumbled down the timesheets. It shows how the whole order has moved forward. 1:59.020 seconds, still fastest. Had a relatively recent lap for the 87 ACA ASP Mercedes. That's in the hands of Nico Jamin at the moment, but I think that could be changed. Oh dear, there's
and is that
it's the
damage?
114 Lexus that was
Marcus
around
Baltala.
20th, 21st. He's fallen down to just over 1.25 seconds down the pace. We've been looking at the balance of the sister car a short while back, but this one's got the balance slightly wrong. Is it going to get going again and move out of the way?
What's a strange part of the track is down at the loop, and I'm not sure that it's hard to pick up on the camera. Was there left front damage? The car would never normally be in this part of the circuit or off the racetrack unless there was a major mechanical problem or there has been some sort of contact. And if we can get, I think there's been contact of some description, but it's just very difficult. The light where it's bouncing off.
Yeah, it puts a lot of shade in the image.
The front of the Lexus, but it is not in the normal area on the outside of what they call the loop. You've got village corner, the right hand, and then you've got loop, which is one of those funny corners. The gap in between is quite wide, and quite often you'll see drivers taking a strange line coming out of village to get into loop to try and get past somebody. So it's a yellow sector up in sector 2. So,
well, that will scupper any improvements. We just had another car go under 2 minutes. It was number 54, also from Emil Frey Racing, but this one's the Jaguar, shared by Alex Fontana, who's the driver at the wheel, the Spanish driver at the moment, Swiss driver, I beg your pardon, with Adrian Zad, another Swiss driver, and Canadian Michael Grenier. So it's good. And obviously, down at Monza, that Jaguar just went so super well, didn't it, John?
Well, I mean,
fifth place
again,
overall.
A bit like the Lamborghini Gallardo, they're here are two cars that are more, let's say, the senior citizens of the GT3 paddock these days, and they were still performing. Again, it indicates where the balance of performance, which is how the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championships are managed, that a car that is, you know, an older car than maybe some of the most recent GT3 introductories is capable of still being competitive.
Yeah, well, the Jaguar is actually getting rather obstructed and consequently has lost out its very best start to this lap. It's totally scuppered trying to go around the outside there, so I would suggest that driver 54, Alex Fontana, will back off a little bit, but as I say that, he goes on to the Wellington Straight and dives around the car that was in his way, but just about got his nose in front as he reaches Brooklands.
Yes, so the 76, that's the Aston Martin, Jake Dennis, Nicky Thiem, those two drivers both go, well, Nicky Thiem is a platinum driver, Jake Dennis is gold, and Mathieu Vivier is also a gold driver, so which of the three currently, we assume that the transponders are actually correctly set. So 76, we think that would have been Mathieu Vivier.
Right now, what final warning? Car number 44, yet another final warning. Yellow flags still out around the circuit.
It's sector 3 this time. So,
oh, well, here comes the
7.
Bentley. Number 7, Jules Gounon's moved it up to 34th position, but unlikely to improve on this lap, very early in the lap, but unless those yellow flags are withdrawn very quickly, hasn't got there just yet. So another second generation, Jules Gounon, second generation driver, son of Jean-Marc, tucked in behind the number 7 Bentley. There is number 7 of Jules Gounon.
Yeah, a major step forward for Jules Gounon. Another driver who, you're talking about Spa 24, who impressed me greatly was Jules Gounon in last year's 24-hour endurance event of Spa.
I didn't go off.
No,
it was another bloke. It's just Aston Martin.
He's had his hair cut. So it's
yeah.
grass on the, yes, it is grass.
Yeah. Just to finish the sentence I started a while ago, number 44, it was the Stracker Racing Mercedes, and the driver whose final warning is Oliver Rowland. But I wonder actually, in a 3-driver session, if it could be accumulative, each of you could get one warning, and one of you, the final one, has to collect it. Now 42 has just set the fastest first sector of anyone.
That's the Nissan.
It's 42 is Stracker
Racing.
Chris Buncombe, Nick Leventis, Lewis Williamson. I would think that's probably Lewis Williamson, the Scottish driver from the far north of Scotland. Fastest of anybody, but couldn't complete the lap because of the yellows, and for the Aston Martin, clearly not completing the lap for other reasons, or completing it with a visit to the pits, more to be more accurate.
And very briefly, here comes the bride.
4 minutes late. That's acceptable. So, a little bit of a check over for the TF Sports team run by Tom Ferrier. That's a team that's been really going places in the past few years now, playing up in the World Endurance Championship as well. So,
I mean, the grass currently is pretty manicured around Silverstone. It's amazing that you can get as much, mind you, the splitter, the front splitter on the Aston, you can see is slightly pronounced from the rest of the bodywork.
Can become a bit like a trowel, can't it, I suppose?
I mean, it certainly is an efficient way to cut the grass. As we go back and watch the 42.
Well, this is the Lewis Williamson Mercedes. Easy to pick out with that big yellow stripe up over the bonnet and the roof. And, Lewis going very well indeed. 7th fastest. He's just set his fastest first sector time. There's yellow flag still in sector 3, but he's in sector 2 now.
And he's going to have to back off.
He is, certainly.
So the British driver will have to be marginally slower through this sector. Otherwise he'll engage the wrath of race director for not respecting waved yellow flags, run pretty wide coming out all the way back. So through Aintree Corner, down Wellington Straight, down into the late entry into Brooklyn, a corner that offers up a lot of opportunities for people to make a pass. Then into the sometimes called frustratingly long, the double apex of Luffield. Very important corner because it leads on to one of the very quick parts of Silverstone. Depending on which way the wind's blowing, and at the minute there's not an awful lot of wind blowing anyway, other than the commentary booth. Into Copse can be as quick as it is into Hanger, and down Hanger straight into Stoke Corner. Oh, Lewis! I mean, that is rude. That is rude.
Blown off the track. Don't forget other race. Car 44, black flag is being proffered now, and that's one of the sister cars from Straka. That's Oliver Rowland at the wheel at the moment. He may have been carrying some. Thomas Jaeger was out of that early on, but big warnings.
Well, he's not alone and running. There's a lot of cars, particularly coming out of Luffield. We can see that from our commentary position. But all around the racetrack, track limit abuse is being observed, and drivers will be given it now for Oliver Rowland in his, I think it is his debut. Lucas Stoll, another star at Monza. Lucas Stoll did a great job, along with Yelmo Berman and
Maro Engel.
Yeah, Maro, I said Maro. Yes, that was another car that starred in the 3 hours of Monza.
Yeah, and we just saw Lewis Williamson run off the track in the number 42 Straka Mercedes, and he too is being warned, but for 44 it seems to have gone beyond the warning stage, so team manager to race control immediately. Good to see the Bentleys out on track. They really do look so different to last year's cars, but at the moment their times aren't their looks aren't transferring to good times on the board. The number 7 sister car is 33rd, and the number 8 is in 13th. So that's Andy Soucek at the wheel. He's actually just set the fastest first sector at the time, and that's a very good sector time for that car. So he's just under a second down on the ultimate pace, and let's have a little look at a replay in the background. Who's doing the spinning?
There we go.
The
AF
course,
Duncan Cameron. So that's taken a whole sway. You get lovely stripes when a GT car runs through the grass, and again gets into the brake duct, get into the radiator cooling, the oil cooling. So it'll be a slowish lap back to the pits. If we go back to the number 8 Bentley, now it makes its way through Aintree all the way down the Wellington Straight, getting up to about 230 kilometers an hour before you get onto the brakes, and then a gradual tightening apex, late apex, then straighten the car up, get back to the left, and then try and essentially you can either hug the curve all the way around Luffield or try and make it as 2 separate apexes, and then of course the exit. And what can you say about the exit? But everybody loves to run wide on it to try and get the car straight in up as early as possible.
Good for second place. I was just about to report Lewis Williamson had gone second. I was waiting for you to finish the second sentence, and now he's only third because Andy Soucek, 0.1. So we looked at the Ferrari before from Acura ASP. This is the car that was on the front road, fastest qualifier at Monza. This isn't qualifying, this is free practice, but that's how not to do it.
That's a great, I've never seen that camera angle before because I've never seen trees about. Are we at Silverstone?
No, I think it looks like Thruxton actually in that image. He really is way off track. He's joining British touring car
that's the middle part of the complex at Beckett, so somehow or other he's apparently got it all wrong. And but just that particular camera angle, I mean, somewhere behind that is, if you're rich and privileged, Stowe School. Let's say rich, forget the privilege. If you're rich, it's Stowe School.
So round, yes, just off to the left of image. And in fact, it's quite weird. You can't see the track on the exit, that high-up shot looking down at the stranded Ferrari, properly stranded Ferrari.
Yeah, now that's going to need a tow vehicle to recover it, and whether they will actually continue the session under localized yellow, because it's going to take more than a few minutes to get that car removed. Let's look and see again, is it self-induced? Comes in the back end, gets away, and just around it goes, and it does a foot. Not quite, about a 6:42 and a bit.
Yeah, again, it's an unusual angle. You normally see people lose it a bit further around the corner, but Andy Soucek will be smiling as he got his time in to move into second place. Just 0.173 of a second down on the 87 Mercedes that's top of the charts at the moment, just ahead of Lewis Williamson in the 42 Mercedes from Straka Racing. So the waved yellow flags in the middle sector, no, the end of sector 1 at the Maggots-Beckett sequence of corners. Raffaele Marciello, he's in the pits at the moment, but he has shown little sort of spurts of pace. Jack Manchester, fourth fastest at the moment, or his car fourth fastest. So it seems Mercedes very strong indeed here at Silverstone.
Yeah, a number of cars taking the opportunity to dive back into the pit lane, because with the first sector under a waved yellow flag, you cannot make any lap time improvements. What you can do is in the other sectors is see if there has been a car change that's an improvement or not. We'll go back to Jules Gounon in the sister number 7 Bentley, so this is a lap time that will not match the best that that car currently has done. So down in 33rd position, mind you, 1.8 seconds slower than the overall fastest, currently held by the fastest. That's the Nicolas Jamin aka ASP. So will we see Jules Gounon continue, or will he decide, well, I've learned what I've learned and I can go into the pits. We've got just under 30 minutes of the session remaining.
Yeah, put the
want to make a change, now is the time to do it when the track is not going to be at its quickest.
Yeah, and you can't go for a super fast lap, but we have some quick times. Raffaele Marciello is in the pits at the moment.
Now, hold on a second.
Why are you pointing at that?
Because car 88, Raffaele Marciello, whether it's him in the car or not, on his last lap, maybe he's in the pits, he's gone into the pits. I'm concerned because he had a personal best in sector 1. Don't know when that occurred. I hope it occurred
It's a while ago.
So then he's covered by that. So the Bentley number 7 stays out.
Yes, it's going to be hard to improve with those yellow flags up as Maggots go into Beckett's.
Big snap oversteer on the point, just getting to the apex for a young Jules Gounon. And that will have brought his breakfast a bit further into his esophagus than he would have hoped for.
Well, takes it quite sensibly. There is car 88, the Mercedes we were talking about, in the pit garage, so not out improving its time. But don't forget, the teams all like to run through all 3 of their drivers, and I think the 88 car brought into pits by Raffaele Marciello, but I don't think as yet we've seen Tristan Vautier. Certainly Adam Christodoulou started it, so I think they're going to clean it up, and that, I presume that, yeah, it doesn't look as tall as Raffaele, so presumably that's Tristan Vautier.
I think that's Vautier. Well, no,
they still reckon it's Marciello.
That's what the transponder says.
Yeah,
we don't
exactly,
know whether they
exactly.
switched the transponders or not. So everything has sort of gone quiet because track is still removing the Ferrari from the gravel up at that complex. Keep calling the complex. Maggots, Beckett's, between Maggots and Beckett's. Back end of the car coming through Maggots, got away, and then went into almost a virtual 720-degree spin.
With an hour and a half of practice time, you don't have that much time if you want your 3 drivers to get sensible track time. Some of the bronze class drivers could go out yesterday and gain some experience, which is great, obviously brings them up. But for a lot of the pro lineups, this is their first chance to really get out and get their hands dirty and get a feel for the circuit. Today, much warmer than yesterday. I don't know what tomorrow holds. It's due to be bright sunshine. Whether it's warmer or cooler than today remains to be seen. But really, it's all about track time at the moment and just getting used to the temperatures that you may be experiencing tomorrow. Very few quick times being put in at the moment. We've still got, in fact, the yellow flag has now been removed, just as I said that. So we may start to get some times coming in a little bit faster. Haven't had any really super quick times from the BMWs as yet. 99 is not even on the first page of the timing screens. In fact, 98 and 99, Nick Yaloli and Conor De Filippi, 27th and 28th overall, 1.4 seconds down. So the BMWs, they've showed those flashes of speed, but just still not quite delivering at the very, very top end.
It's a circuit that ought to suit the BMW, the M6. The nature of the flowing high-speed corners, not a huge amount of stop-go, so it allows the car to generate that kind of flow that seems to suit it better than some of the tighter racetracks that are visited throughout the year. But the reality, I think, is that teams will have been going through running their drivers doing their homework, if you used to choose that description. And I don't anticipate in this session seeing very much change, certainly not on the top. It will come if a team opts to use a fresh set of tyres, a new set of tyres, but probably I don't see the point, because by this time tomorrow we'll have gone well past the qualifying. So the benefit of using it, trying to simulate what you might get on Sunday, seemingly a bit pointless. So if you've got sets of rubber, my view is you hang them back as best you can, use them for qualifying. And we mentioned earlier, Bruce, this new qualifying rule where all 3 drivers must compete, and then their times are combined, and that's then the grid time. And it gets away from the issue of having, let's say, some of the gentleman drivers or the AMs finding themselves starting a race near or at the front of a grid. And much better, I think, for everybody, and I think better for the race too.
No, I agree. You've had some sort of mismatches in the past at times. I think it's a good step forward. One driver who has been making moves, not yet at the very sharp end, but up to 14th place. Good improvement from 62 on Motorsport. That's the Alex Brundle Aston Martin with Maxime Martin and Marvin Kirchhofer. Still Maxime Martin on board, but don't forget that came in with a water leak to be investigated and repaired. Doesn't look as though he's improving this time around, but yet another driver within a second of the ultimate pace.
Yeah, and always, I mean, Maxime Martin, not more you can say. I mean, an outstanding GT3 driver, maybe synonymous more with this brand, ironically, with BMW, but now in the Aston Martin, the SRO Motorsport team. So, I mean, the knowledge, the background that he has got, I mean, how helpful is that to a team when you're trying to move forward as a team, and you can rely on, you know, expertise from virtually every racetrack around Europe, and of course many outside of Europe. And with Silverstone, expertise with the team probably would be greater than that of Maxime Martin here at Silverstone. But when you go next round of the Endurance Championship, will be at Paul Ricard, the 6 hours, starting at 5:45 in the evening, going into 5:45, quarter to midnight. And then the Spa 24-hour test itself. And then the big one at the end of July.
The big one, the Spa 24 hours. It is the most extraordinary race, incredible atmosphere. If you've never been, apart from the fact I believe any racing fan at least once a year should go to Spa, otherwise their soul hasn't been serviced. But the Spa 24 hours is very, very special. If you're thinking about going, stop thinking, start booking, come out and join us there. Because, and we had some fantastic news in the last couple of days. Castrol are entering a Honda NSX in that, and it looks magnificent in its race livery. And the more manufacturers, the better. And certainly that's one of the key features I find of the SRO's GT3 championships. It's sheer diversity of machinery.
I gather there's going to be 12 different manufacturers competing in this year's 24 Hours of Spa. Honda eagerly anticipated, because this car has been raced in other championships around the world this year, so it's not a totally unknown quantity, and it's going to add another level of excitement to the 24 Hours of Spa.
Okay, early days. One of the stars of the meeting, I think, is about to put his name on the board. He's down in 33rd position. It's car 31. It's Seb Morris, young Welsh racer. And he has just set the fastest sector time of anybody. He's gone into second place. He's vaulted from 33rd to second.
New tyres.
You'll say new tyres.
Yeah.
Earlier you said rubber. I
Yes.
hope there was one more because he had 4. But he's within 9 1/1000ths of the best time. And that means we now have top 40 cars covered by 2 seconds. It's very competitive. But great to have another one right
Bruce,
up at the front.
I know it's rubber. I'm surmising, because our pit lane reporter's got to find their way down to the Parker Racing team to actually ask the question, was that time done on new rubber or fresher rubber or old rubber? Nevertheless, very impressive time indeed from Seb Morris in the 31 Team Parker Racing entry. Derek Pearce and Rob Smith will be sharing that car, and indicative, I think it gives a very good recommendation for British GT.
Exactly so.
Which,
last year's champion.
of course, runs at all the British circuits throughout the championship season. Nevertheless, this is the creme de la creme of GT racing globally here this weekend, and Seb Morris has planted the Bentley ahead of the factory cars. Okay, I think it's done on a fresh or a new set of tyres. Nevertheless, it's a time that stands.
Yeah, he's 0.8 of a second faster than the number 7 Bentley. Jules Gounon's moved that up to 14th place, and the sister car, number 8, has... But number 8 is in 3rd place. Maxime Soulet has moved that up while we were talking, up into 3rd place overall. So Bentley's 2nd and 3rd, and suddenly 14th. So suddenly they're moving up towards the top. But new tyres or not, the British GT champion Seb Morris really fancies establishing his name yet further up the chart. Here he is. Former model. Used to model, he did, apparently.
Well, why would you be a former model if you're a model?
Because you're busy being a racing driver. It might have been a boy model.
That's weekends. There he comes in the pit lane.
That's true. There we have it. But
so
Team Parker Racing, great for them to have one up at the front end. If they can achieve anything like that in qualifying, they will be absolutely beside themselves.
488, Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, Rick Yoon, Pierre Erret and Rory Pennington. Track limits final warning, second final warning that we have seen here this morning. 20 minutes of the session to go. Seeing that improvement from Rick Morris, sort of came a little bit out of left centre, didn't expect that. Alex Buncombe in the 23 Nissan. Alex Buncombe is like a Nissan employee. When you sign up to drive or sign up with a Japanese company, normally it is a sign up for life, and Alex has been a great ambassador for the brand, and they've supported him through his racing. And Alex Buncombe is always the reference point.
Entirely.
If you look for what is the true pace of a Nissan GTR, and we may get an indication of what that car's all about now that Alex Buncombe is behind the wheel, just looking to see where the 23 car is on timing and scoring, and I don't really see it. It's 33rd.
It's 33rd. It's exactly where Seb Morris was before he put that quick lap in. But just looking back, you talk about almost a job for life. I mean, synonymous is a word with Alex tying in. 2008, he started racing GT4. He did 2007, but then 2008 he was second with RJN Motorsport, 6 wins in the European GT4 Championship, and has just been on for the ride ever since, just putting down those markers, and very personable young man, so deserves all the success he can achieve. But right now, when you're 33rd, success seems some way off, 1.5 seconds down on the ultimate pace.
But his younger sibling, Chris Buncombe, has found himself a racing seat.
Older sibling by 2 years.
Just sorry to cut across you, but
No,
number
do
4,
any time with Stracker.
Black Falcon, Maro Engel, Lucas Stoltz. Lucas Stoltz has gone fastest overall in Sector 2, so maybe that is a car on the move. So it actually, Chris is older than Alex.
Yep.
Doesn't look it.
Born in 1979. Alex born in 1981.
Oh, there you go.
There you have. That's the benefit of
Shows you what a beard can do for your looks.
It does, doesn't it just?
On board, 63 Lamborghini. And who have we got? Okay.
Stoltz, you talked about the speed from Stoltz, that's moved him up to 5th place overall. So 1/3 of a second precisely cover the top 3 runners. It's still the 87 Mercedes at the top of the charts in this free practice session. The 63 Lamborghini, we saw it being pushed really hard by Mirko Bortolotti. Now it's Christian Engelhardt. Mercedes stays out of the way very nicely indeed, but it needs to work its way back up the order.
A little bit aggressive on the curve, just coming to the first part of this double corner now, which is club corner. You ideally want to make it one large arc. You don't want to have to make too many changes, adjustments on the steering wheel. Then you'll launch it into Abbey, and there's a blind apex coming into Abbey, and again that nasty little kick that upsets or unsettles the rear of the car. Then hard on the brakes into village, then cut back for loop. Then it's hard on the throttle, and it's flat out through the left at Aintree. Trying not to get too exercise in the exit. That's pretty good in terms of fairness.
Well, do you remember not so long ago we saw that 72 Ferrari off in the gravel at the exit of the first part of Beckett's? Well, it's recovered. Miguel Molina at the wheel just went up to 8th place. It's become 9th. We're having changes all the time. Car 49 has suddenly started moving up the order, which is the Ram Racing.
Indeed, Mercedes,
Darren Burke, Sandy Yoluk and Ewan Hankey. Hankey at the wheel, and moving on yet more is Lucas Stoltz, going faster and faster in that number 4. I think that's the blue Black Falcon Mercedes, if that's not a way of tripping yourself up, but they run in blue, red and green, and going faster and faster. At the moment he's 1/3 of a second down exactly on the 87 Mercedes from ACA ASP, but you can say on this lap really closing in. Christian Engelhardt also pushing very hard indeed in the 863 Lamborghini.
I didn't anticipate seeing teams, drivers finding this time as quickly as Lucas Stolz, as you point out, first man to break into the 1 minute 58 second lap, 1:58.999, and that was because he had an overall fastest middle sector time, a personal best in the first sector. So first driver, now 21/100ths of a second ahead of the 87 Mercedes, and that's Jean-Luc Bubalik.
Well, just had a bit of a tight moment. The Walkenhorst BMW getting very close to another challenge. We had a spin. You sometimes in a commentary box can hear that. That's the 87
Just gone second
Mercedes.
quickest.
Just gone. Well, it'd been second quickest for a long time. That was the car that was fastest.
Yeah.
It's just handed over to the third of its drivers, and that's Jean-Luc Bubalik,
Yes.
and he's gone for a spin.
And the number 72 Ferrari, the one that we saw off in the gravel, it's further improved in fourth place and waiting to see what it's going to do on its following lap. So it's fractionally down in the first sector. So unlikely to see further improvement from the 72 on this particular lap.
So into the final 15 minutes, or very nearly, in this 1.5 hour session. Maxi Boot starting to pick up the pace a little bit. What's basically happening is a while ago we had about the top 18 cars covered by 17-18 covered by a second. Now the second will give you the top 20, and I think we're going to get a few more cars vaulting into the very sharp end. One of them I expect to do is the 66 Audi. I pinpointed that as a quick one. You might think I'm an idiot because he's down in 24th position out of the 52 runners, but I think it's starting to pick up its pace. Look out for Stein Schotthorst. We're looking there at 89 on the screen, which is Eric Debar, just taking over Philippe Guillaume and Fabien Barthez. We heard John shouting goal earlier because he couldn't help himself.
No, he saved it. It wasn't a goal.
He saved it.
Big cup final day today. You've got to get the football jokes and the winning ones in the same breath.
Get them in early, I say. Right, 14 and a bit minutes remaining in this free practice session. We'll see the cars out again later today for a much shorter session, which is pre-qualifying. But right now, we've had that great lap from Lucas Stolz. He enjoyed it so much he's come into the pits to tell the crew about it. But 1 minute 58.99, but that's still only 0.021 second faster than the best of the rest. We've got another hour and a half of this when we go to our pre-qualifying session, an hour and a half starting at 3:45. The times will continue to come down, I
We've
feel.
now got the top 20 cars covered by just under 1 second. There's Jean-Luc Bubalik. We saw that car rotating just a moment ago. So again, we're not even, we're just into the first free practice session. There's another one later in the afternoon that'll taper off towards sort of 5:30, 5:45-ish in the evening.
Cars coming in, cars going out. I just wanted to flag one up for you there, John. Raffaele Marciello. Oh, it's gone out and just gone straight back in. But around that lap, he set a green sector time. So that was the car we saw the front end being worked on. They're playing around with the in the front wheel arches, checking out the brakes by the looks of things. But I was just about to say, John, watch out. He's got final 12 or so minutes, and we'll see him just slot one in at the top.
Yeah.
But he hasn't.
I mean, funny, brakes are not, well, they traditionally weren't a big issue here at Silverstone. Maybe because of the changes of the circuit, it might. And again, it's not just the circuit. We've got warm temperatures here this weekend, so probably slightly seasonally warmer than we would expect. You know, in the middle of May, it can be a lot chillier. You get a breeze, prevailing wind. Silverstone, of course, one of those areas which borders Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire, is divided somewhere down the middle, but it is actually on higher ground than the surrounding countryside, so it tends to attract its own little microclimate, which can include every conceivable weather condition, and each can happen at a different corner of the circuit on the same day.
And frequently it does. Number 22, final warning for track limits. That's one of the two Team RJN Nissans, Jordan Witt, Ricardo Sanchez and Struan Moore. So the stewards are getting their roar in. They're letting the drivers know there are limits, and we're paying attention. If you're not, tough luck, you're going to get punished.
One of the things I respect about SRO with the Blancpain GT Sprint and Endurance Championship was, one of the two Bentleys, and that is that the 31 getting very wide coming out of Luffield. That was the Derek Pearce, Rob Smith, Seb Morris car.
Yeah, with Derek Pearce at the wheel now.
There is a tougher regime in respect of track limits, and also in terms of contact between cars. And it's, in a sense, I believe, long overdue, because there's been too much freedom given to drivers where they can abuse track limits. On modern Grade 1 circuits around the world, circuits are built with massive runoff for safety reasons. They're not there to be used for your own individual benefit. And now that, particularly with the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championship tightening up on abuse, eventually, it's like the old slow water torture, the message will get through.
And then we'll have a whole fresh new crop of drivers and have to start all over again. But
Whip them into shape, no trouble.
yeah. So, just over 10 minutes remaining in this first of two 90-minute practice sessions today. This is a free practice session, then we have the pre-qualifying session. And they're all building up to tomorrow morning's qualifying, where, just to reiterate, the drivers will go out and all have to set a time, and it's an average lap time of each of the three drivers. Well, all the cars bar 2 have three drivers, but it's an average. Oh, the number 7 Bentley out on the track, starting to pick up the pace, and Stephen Kane has gone straight on at Copse, an enormous gravel trap, but clearly got it wrong on the way in. Let's have a look at the replay.
Whatever happened under braking, you can see a lot of black rubber on the outside of the racetrack. Didn't quite catch the beginning of it, whether it was a brake issue, whether the back end just snapped suddenly, but certainly that car is going to take a moment or two again to be retrieved. It's in a vulnerable part of the exit of Stowe, so everybody will be made fully aware of there'll be waved yellow flags as you come down pit straight before you even get anywhere near the braking zone.
Yeah, but for those trying to complete their lap, they could do so at full racing speed and have vision of the waved yellow flags down at Copse. But actually, that said, just look, I was watching Frank Pereira to see if he could improve in the 82 Lamborghini from Grasser, but he was a fraction down, so he stays outside the top 20.
There are 5 marshals there, and they're not trying to change a light bulb. They're trying to get that car removed. What are you laughing at?
Well, I was wondering where you were going with that one. It was nicely delivered, but then what are they trying to do? They've walked away now.
They've walked away because they're in a vulnerable position.
It's a vulnerable position. They need a tow. Well, here we have.
And here comes the recovery vehicle. It'll tow the Bentley, I suspect, back to a access point at the corner. That car will, well, it's 9 minutes remaining, so effectively number 7's session has ended. And even if they did get it back on the track, there's probably more gravel in the car than the weight saved by M Sport when they do the race prep.
Yeah, but what they will know is that at the time of the rotation there into the gravel, 0.854 was the deficit of a second down on the fastest car, the Black Falcon Mercedes, which is top of the chart, number 4. But if they could find a quarter of a second, that could move them up into the top 10, tail end of the top 10 in terms of speed.
Adrian Zargan, 20th place in the Jaguar, just going through Copse, of course, like everybody. He is respecting the waved yellow flags, and he was off the throttle and doing what a good boy should do when you're given a warning, a track warning that is not, he wasn't individually warned, it's a track warning to everyone to respect the waved yellow flags in a high-speed corner. Again, one of the awesome corners. You come down what they now call national pit straight. You can't see the apex until you're on it, so you have to anticipate it. But if you get it right, you can carry so much speed. I mean, it's a wonderful corner, and you've got a very wide exit, so you can release the car on the exit and kind of get it as straight as possible to carry that momentum all the way up there. And it is a gradual incline up towards Maggots and Beckett's.
So don't expect any improvements of times at the moment. Still that number 7 Bentley, Stephen Kane put it there in the gravel at Copse. First corner of the lap, deep in the gravel. But by the time, I think next time we have a look at down at Copse, that car will have been removed. The tow vehicle was there ready to pull it away, the big tractor unit to push it away. Out on circuit though, good still to see this Jaguar entered by Emil Fry Racing. In the thick of the action. Adrian Zag, though, down in 20th position, but within a second of the ultimate pace. That is the key, there or thereabouts. So 7 minutes remaining. Top of the time chart, sitting in the pit lane at the moment, perhaps in the garage, the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. Lucas Stoltz set the time. He did one quick lap and then banged in a better one, put him at the top of the chart. Second place is the 87 Mercedes. The quick time in that, I believe, was set by Nico Jama, and third place is the 31 Bentley, and the very quick time in that came from Seb Morris. But we've had quick changes. We had Derek Pearce go out, and now it's Rob Smith in that car. So they're rifling through their drivers, spinning away.
In the 72 Ferrari, you've got Davide Rigo, and ordinarily I would say watch the 72 Ferrari, because Davide Rigo is outstanding. in that particular car and that particular brand. But of course, Sector 1 still under that waved yellow flag, so no opportunity to make an improvement on his current 4th quickest time. He's just a 10th and a bit of a second slower than the quickest time by Lucas Stolz and the Black Falcon Mercedes.
Still the majority of cars out on the circuit, a handful, about 10 of them in the pit lane, including the fastest one of all. But we still have the yellow strap on the flash on the side of the clock at the top of your screen there. Just under 6 minutes remaining, but still yellow in that first sector, and that's at Cops. That's where the number 7 Bentley is being pulled out of the gravel. I would reckon any moment now we will be getting the all go again and see if anybody can move up to the top. The fastest time, 1 minute 58.999 seconds. Lucas Stolz in the number 4 Mercedes, and that puts him 21 thousandths of a second ahead of a fellow Mercedes. That one though from ASP, the 87 entry. And then Derek Pearce has handed over to Rob Smith, but it was Seb Morris who set the 3rd fastest time for the Team Parker Racing Bentley, just ahead of Davide Rigon. So the top 5 runners covered by 1/5 of a second. And just worth pointing out, the other Bentley, the more modern Bentley, one of 2 from M Sport, is 5th overall. Maxime Soulet just under 1/5 of a second down on the ultimate pace. 5 minutes remaining here. Free practice, beautiful sunny day here at Silverstone, wonderful track conditions and plenty of space for 52 runners to go out and try and make sure they can nail down a quick nap. But it's much more in this session, John, about finding some balance, working out the tyre life in these warmer than expected conditions. It's not really about banging in a really quick time.
The teams have got obviously their records and references from a year ago, those teams that were here a year ago, but we've got a revised Pirelli tyre which was introduced in Zolder, then in endurance it appeared at Monza, so that's a tyre that gives fundamentally more rear stability, which is something that, in my view, a racing car, if it doesn't have stability at the rear, is never going to be a pleasant thing to drive. So that's a step forward. So that changes your setup sheets from 1 year ago. So based on the knowledge that you gained at Monza, some of it may move forward. But of course the uniqueness of Silverstone with these high-speed corners, we watch the 72 Ferrari pulling out from behind the Audi coming down into Stowe. That's Davide Rigon behind the wheel. There is the number 8 Bentley, sister car. We haven't had a glimpse of it since it went into the gravel. So Maxime Soulet, who 3 years ago did just a mega stint and was one of the stars for me of the event that weekend.
Yeah, there have been various races over the years where Maxime has been thrown some red meat, ladies and gentlemen, and he's going to absolutely go for it. And some spring to mind at Barcelona last year, I think it was absolutely great, and he's now wound up. He's had his best middle sector. So that's looking very, very strong indeed.
First sector is about a second off what is currently the best, about 2 minutes 00. So what he did in the second sector was personal best, but the first sector was the one that sort of took the opportunity away. Now, is that the Bentley? It is. That's the number 7 Bentley, rocking and rolling and shaking itself as it drives back away from there it is. Stephen Kane staying way off the race line. Don't put the brakes on, Stephen. You know, stay as clear as you can, keep out of people's way, and make the trip back as smooth as you'd expect a driver from Northern Ireland to do.
I see what you did there, John.
Yeah, got it. That segue, didn't I?
Got it in, and it will now have to cut to Andrew Watson so we can run through. And Charlie Eastwood, you know, we've got plenty of Northern Irish runners out there. But into the closing moments, it's very unlikely we're going to get any quicker times at the very top end. And hopefully there's no gravel coming out of that number 7 Bentley. Because where you wouldn't really want it is you're arriving at Maggots, wanting to do a bit of turning and start skating over the top.
Not when you're committed. Not when you've got nothing left in the tank except a wing and a prayer. So you don't want to find the track covered in gravel. That would just give you an unnecessarily scary moment. Back end of the Bentley, moving a little bit more than I remember seeing M Sport Bentleys do in the past.
Well, he's definitely had to work his way past one of the Barwell, I think it was the 77 Lamborghini. Barwell Motorsport brought 2 cars here. That'd be, if it's got the Minshaw, Demon Tweaks on it, it's the John Minshaw car, so it's the 77. 488 onto the naughty step, team manager of 488, which is the AM Rinaldi Racing entry. Rick Yoon, Pierre Erry and Rory Pentonen. So one of them, or 2 of them, or all 3 perhaps, have transgressed by running off the circuit. So again, that'll be track limits.
flag also for car 26 Centre Lock Racing. Mark Rastin, Niels, Steve Nard and Marcus Winkelhoff, track limits. So you think you might get away with it. In race control, they have cameras and they are able to see things that are not available from the circuit cameras, which are the ones that we provide the commentary from.
But with 52 runners and 18 corners around the circuit and 18 cameras, that's a lot of eyes you need just to stay on top of all of it.
I know. You know what? Racing drivers are fairly straightforward, uncomplicated people. They imagine, if there's 50 or so cars on the racetrack, you can hide in the crowd. No one's going to see what you're doing. Well, that doesn't work either.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't now. So into the final minute before the checkered flag comes out to end 90 minutes of free practice.
There's 53 Ferrari, currently 13th quickest, and that I think is Nick Hummerson behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, there we are. Look.
Oh, very good, John. I think they're listening. But that was the time would have been set by Andrea Bertolini, who, no disrespect to the other drivers, is the star in that car, and it's coming in slowly. It's a relatively clear track. We've lost about a dozen of the cars. They're just in their pit garages at the moment. And when you start with 52 cars, dropping to a mere 40 probably feels as though there's loads of space, because it is in these sessions. So many decent laps get compromised by other drivers out on the circuit. So if you want a quick time, the checkered flag has been hung 5 seconds ago. So at the top, it's the number 4 Mercedes. And will it stay there? I think the simple answer is yeah, but suddenly Davide Rigon, on what will be his final fly, has set his fastest first sector of anyone in number 72. It's the SMP, not this Ferrari, that's the Nick Hummerson one. With the red, white and blue getting towards the halfway point of the lap will be Davide Rigon. He's 0.161 of a second down at the moment and improving.
Would that be a bit of fun? And also, Adam Christodoulou in the 88 Mercedes, fastest sector time for him. His first sector time a very slow one, so his lap time will not have any reference, but certainly the one of Davide Rigon and the 72 Mercedes may do. And even the number 8 Bentley at Maxime Soulet on his third sector goes a personal best. So personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2 for the 72 Ferrari. Bruce, you spotted it.
Well, thank goodness for small mercies, but he could well go to the very top of the charts, just under a fifth of a second down. We've got an Audi stopped on the circuit right towards the end of, it's coming out of the Luffields. It's not in the way because the natural line for the cars is to the outside of the corner, but maybe a lack of fuel, maybe a lack of energy. But let's see, can Davide Rigon flash past? We've got 2 marshals by that car out there.
So yellow flag tending that sector, well, it's not showing on screen because the session has been read.
Yeah, it's double-waved yellows at Luffield. I can see them on the entry, so I'm afraid for Davide Rigon that will scupper his enter lap, but it didn't because he went top. He got past just in time, so he goes top by 0.2 of a second in the nick of time. Or did he?
Interesting to see, because there was a double-waved yellow flag at Luffield, but on timing and scoring, there is nothing indicating it was there because the checkered flag is out. But if you're on track after, you can finish your lap, in other words, so interesting scenario. Interesting to see. He did actually back off. He did a 31.2 in that final sector. The fastest overall sector time is a 31.1. So I wonder what the stewards and the race director will make of that, because it's a question of, did he go through that sector when the waved yellow flag was being shown, or did he was he beyond it before it came out? Well, such as the complexity.
Well, exactly, and it's free practice. It's not qualifying. There was the car that was toppled right at the end. Lucas Stoltz, the blue Black Falcon Mercedes, another Mercedes from Acker ASP, and Brady 7 ended up 3rd overall. And for Team Parker Racing, they'll be delighted that their older model Continental Bentley was 4th fastest. So Seb Morris doing a really strong job. But I would say look out for the newer Bentleys in the hands, particularly the number 8 crew, because Maxime Soulet, 5th fastest at the end, very strong indeed. And there are those times. Look, whole of the first screen, the top 12 cars covered by way less than a second, 0.887. But at the moment, it's Ferrari at the top from Mercedes in 2nd place, Mercedes in 3rd place, Bentley in 4th and 5th, another Mercedes in 7th, and then another one in 8th. A bit of a theme there, John. I think we have coming, and in 9th, and Vassivier and Tim, the Aston Martin getting up into 10th place, so a bit more variety. But where are the Audis? A Lamborghini in 11th, and the top Audi in 12th place overall. So plenty of variety, but Mercedes showing a very strong hand. But Davide Rigon up to the top right at the end. This is the car that qualified in pole position in Monza for the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and again looking in very strong form indeed. But for a lot of runners it was all about getting sensible track time, not too many spinners. A few drivers will have the wrath of the stewards thrown at them for exceeding track limits, and hopefully no other misdemeanors, but I think they all went out to play, and I believe we got them all back again. The fact that we're just on the third timing screen, 36 cars, we can go through the fourth timing screen because we should have 52 runners in all, which is an incredible entry of drivers. All but 2 of the teams have a 3-driver lineup, and for a lot of the teams it might have been not just their first time competing at Silverstone, but also the first time competing at Silverstone in such beautiful May weather. And certainly the heat will have been more than they expected, and it might have changed the way they set up their tyres and staggered the setups, but very, very competitive field. They will be out on the track again this afternoon for another 90 minutes of running, starting at 15:45 till 5:15. So time and plenty. In fact, we had 50 runners in the end. 2 of the runners did not set a time. And we've just been told that car 66 ran out of fuel, so we were quite right, John. So unfortunately for the marshals, they're probably quite warm in their overalls. They're a little bit warmer now. But the crowd started to come in. It's been a wonderful day. Here are the highlights. Wave green flags and perfect track conditions. It was a question of who could get out, who could make space out on the circuit and start to deliver the quick times, and all the teams wanting to cycle through all 3 of their drivers. And some of the drivers who really impressed, Lewis Williamson in that 42 Mercedes. We had a few off-track moments, most notably up at the Maggots and Beckett's combination of corners, but plenty of space to go around. And going around was one of the cars we didn't expect. Fred Machiavicki in the Manthey Racing Porsche up at Luffield. A few other cars went a little bit wide, and a little bit wide was what the drivers got warned for. There was 42 getting pinged for going over the curbs going onto the Wellington Straight. BMW trying to get in the mix, but it's been a bit of a struggle for them so far. The new Lexuses, or new to us this year, really starting to pick up the pace, getting towards the top 10. And then for Stephen Kane, unfortunately, round into the gravel. But at the very end of the session, it was Davide Rigon going top for the number 72 Ferrari team.